nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News Weekend Edition with Jeanette Roche.
Hello and thanks for joining us. The Lethbridge Police Service has been making national headlines once again. This time it's because the Lethbridge Police Commission said it won't be holding a public inquiry into allegations against the Lethbridge Police Service after it was asked to do so by the attorney who represents Lethbridge West MLA Shannon Phillips and a woman who made sexual misconduct allegations against a former LPS inspector. Here's the full story. On September 27th, Calgary attorney Michael Bates of Rattan Bates Law Firm requested that the Lethbridge Police Commission conduct the inquiry pursuant to Section 32 of the Police Act, after receiving letters intended for his clients, MLA Shannon Phillips, and the woman who earlier this year accused former Lethbridge Police Inspector Bill Kay of sexual misconduct. Remember her? We referred to that woman as Emma and kept her identity hidden in an exclusive interview she did with Bridge City News.
I feel I was absolutely manipulated. We're talking about someone who policed longer than I've been alive.
That case is still under investigation by the General Investigative Section in Airdrie. At the time, though, Emma said she wasn't treated fairly by the authorities she reported it to at Lethbridge Police Service.
It's about justice. It's about protecting the vulnerable.
Since that time, an anonymous letter was sent to her attorney, Michael Bates. She tells Bridge City News, quote, "When I first read my letter, I was horrified and sad. The content of my letter is insulting and disturbing. I fear for victims in our community because of what it says. Every time I read it, I feel nauseated." Emma would not go into detail about the letter's exact contents. Bates also received a letter or letters intended for his other client, Lethbridge MLA Shannon Phillips, who had opened a case with him to have LPS investigated for a number of allegations, including unauthorized database searches on her and having pictures unknowingly taken and posted of her at a Lethbridge diner. Officers involved in those cases have been disciplined by LPS, but Phillips was not satisfied with the sanctions and made an appeal for a public hearing into the matter, an appeal which was denied by Police Chief Shaheen Medizadeh. Now it's the Police Commission which is denying a request for a public inquiry. It's believed by those involved that the anonymous letter sent to Rattan Bates Law Office allegedly came from somewhere inside LPS. A press release sent by Police Commissioner Rob Van Spronson explains his decision, saying, quote, "The LPC determined that the circumstances around the request are problematic and make a proper investigation particularly difficult. After careful consideration of the request, the Lethbridge Police Commission decided not to order a Section 32 public inquiry." End quote. For her part, Emma told Bridge City News at this time she won't be commenting on the Police Commission's decision. The United Conservative Party's annual general meeting wrapped up in Calgary last weekend. Premier Jason Kenney acknowledged he may not be the most popular premier right now. He defended actions taken to protect the province's healthcare system during the pandemic, despite the fact that some of those actions caused dissension within the ranks.
I hear you, and I do so respectfully. It is no secret that these views have been strongly expressed in our caucus. But please hear me. If we had not made tough decisions, for example, in September, there is absolutely no doubt that we would have exceeded the total possible capacity of our hospitals to provide critical care.
Many people have been criticizing the recent throne speech by Trudeau Liberals. You can include the Canadian Taxpayers Federation in that group. Kevin Lacy is the Alberta director of the CTF, and he joined Hal Roberts from Edmonton.
Kevin, what would you have liked to have seen the Liberals put more of a focus on?
Well, we would have liked to have seen the government acknowledge the struggle taxpayers are under with the rising costs of basically everything Canadians need as a result of inflation, and to hear something, at least once, to hear that the deficit and the debt is a big issue for them.
Now, Kevin, many Canadians are not only concerned about our $1 trillion debt, but also with the federal carbon tax, which is going up by how much by the year 2030?
Well, by about 40 cents by 2030. And Hal, if you take a look at it, Canadians are also faced under these massive other costs that are going up, everything from groceries to clothing that their kids need. And now we're going to be faced with yet these more increases in the cost of gasoline, already across Canada about 34 cents out of every liter is tax on gasoline. So don't let any politician or government official tell you that there's nothing they can do about the high price of gas, considering so much of it is tax.
That was Kevin Lacy, Alberta Director for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, joining us from Edmonton.
Coming up after the break, we speak with a sociologist about the great divide among Canadians and societal changes since the pandemic. Keep it right here. Well, since the spring of 2020, we may be feeling that our world has been flipped upside down when we consider where we are now to where we were prior to this global pandemic. We're seeing government mandates, suicides, bankruptcies, and now a great divide among Canadians. So we want to bring in the perspective of a sociologist. Dr. Trevor Harrison is a professor of sociology at the University of Lethbridge and a research affiliate at the Prentice Institute for Global Population and Economy. Dr. Harrison joined me earlier this week to discuss. Take a look. We wanted to have you on to chat about the changes that we've seen as a result of the COVID pandemic. So over the past 20 months, of course, we've seen many societal changes. So let's take, for example, resistance to government mandates versus those who are supportive. So if we look at the timelines of development of COVID and the restrictions, was this divide of population bound to happen? What do you think?
Well, I think we are in a period of severe stresses period. So the pandemic just added to an awful lot of fears and anxieties that people had. So, for example, automation is replacing a lot of jobs. Globalization has dislodged a lot of traditional jobs and upset economies everywhere. And so you have that. And then there's climate change on top of that, which is yet another thing that we all have to deal with. So there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear out there, and that translates sometimes to a lot of anger. And so you get into this kind of conspiracy kind of mindset that some people have around some of these issues.
What sort of ideologies do you think leads or motivates groups that sort of or follow these conspiracies or create them, or certain people that follow government versus those who are resisting government mandates? We're seeing that all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, besides the outside of just fear, anger, anxiety, or anger towards people, the major ideological drive of a lot of people who are resistant is a kind of libertarianism. Freedom is everything, and we see that in the protests, the people holding placards or whatever, that don't take away my freedom. There's a long tradition of that in the United States, of course. Give me freedom or give me death, as they say. But we also have that kind of libertarian populist appeal here in Alberta. And so we've kind of seen it throughout the pandemic. And there's also just fatigue. I think there's a number of people who are just at this point tired and anxious again. And so they don't want to believe that the problem is as bad as it is, or at least they're fooling themselves that it isn't. So,
yeah, and I think you're right that we're seeing people stand up and sort of revolt against what's happening. People, like you said, people are just tired of it, and they just want things to get back to normal. So, in your opinion, is this something new that's happening here?
We've sort of seen this in bits and pieces in the past. Even over hundreds of years, we've had people who are resistant to or don't believe the problem is as bad as it is, right? So, but I think it's been magnified in recent years by social media. So the social media has become a nice vehicle for carrying either just plain untruths or misinformation or conspiracy theories again. And we've seen that really proliferate during this time. And so I think that part has added a kind of a nuance to conspiracies that we have not seen in the past. Conspiracies travel at the speed of sound now, whereas they used to have to travel by pony.
Now, this might be a conspiracy in itself, but do you feel that there's an attempt by some world leaders to use the COVID experience to forge new societal attitudes?
The saying is sometimes never waste a good crisis, so I mean, people will use various crises in order to maximize their own power. But I don't think in this instance that's necessarily the case. I think that this truly is a medical issue. This is a health issue. And the closest comparison to this would be probably in the Second World War. This is a collective action problem. So we all have to pull together collectively to get through this particular war against the pandemic. And after it's afterwards, we can probably relax again, and we'll sort of go back to the old ways again.
Up next, an Alberta family business is making a splash in waterways across the country. But first, a quick break. What started as a small family business to clean waterways has grown into a company that helps food producers across the country. Joshua Daychief is the CEO of Advanced Ag and shares his company's startup story that began with his mom's dream of cleaning up the Great Lakes. So Joshua, tell us first, how did your company get started?
Well, it's a bit of a long story. We actually were in business in around 2000, 2001. My mom, Dr. Phyllis Daychief, was doing some freelance work as a technical writer for entrepreneurs in the US. And one of the companies was out of Florida, and they were doing some interesting research using bacteria to improve conditions in water and wastewater. Of course, being an entrepreneur, she asked if anyone was doing this in Canada, which led to a meeting with our supplier. And that's really how it all got started. But getting started in Canada wasn't easy. Even though we had the rights to sell in Canada, we needed research, and we were kind of starting from ground zero. So we were lucky enough to actually access research funding from the National Research Council, which quite honestly kept the business in operation for a few years. We didn't really realize at the time how important that research was going to be. With the research itself, we focused on taking different species of bacteria and growing or brewing them simultaneously so that we can treat large lakes naturally. We did this for about the first, I would say, 15 years in business. We treated ponds and lakes with municipalities like the city of Calgary, the city of Lethbridge. But 6 years ago, we worked with our head scientists to develop a mix of bacteria for soil and crop health. It seemed like a bit of a natural transition to start using our brewing research and technology for large-scale farm applications. And since the development of this ag product, our business has really experienced consistent growth. And if I'm being 100% honest, the last 5 or 6 years has seemed like a bit of a blur for us.
So switching gears away from the family aspect, let's talk a little bit more about your products. So clean water obviously is so important to the industry in our area, but that's only part of the story. So can you tell us what Advanced Ag brings specifically to farmers and growers to enhance their crops?
Well, when we developed this blend of bacteria for agriculture, we knew what it would do in a lab setting or a controlled environment, really anything under 20 acres. When we produced the product itself, we actually put each individual species of bacteria through a series of tests to make sure that they can take nutrients that aren't available to plants and make them available. The problem we see today with our soil is that there's not really a lack of nutrients for the plants, but most of those nutrients are locked up in an unavailable form. So instead of feeding the plant like a lot of synthetic fertilizers have done over the last few generations, we use our bacteria to access what's already there. As a result of that, we are finding that most producers using products like ours that focus on soil health are able to produce healthier crops and cut back on other inputs.
Okay, that's awesome. So is there a yield range of increase that you've seen your product bring to farmers' crops?
I mean, yeah, for sure. Yield is everything to a producer, right? I mean, it's how they get paid, but there's more to it. And we have for sure seen consistent yield increases in 1 year, 2 years. through third-party research and field trials. But we've also found that the bacteria are more responsive on certain crops, and that many other factors can contribute to the overall performance of the product, such as climate, soil type, and other inputs that farmers are using. But our goal is to, what if we can keep yields the same and cut back on other inputs by focusing on the health of the soil, the roots of the plant? I believe that's where we're going to see the overall return on investment for producers and, even generations to come, like their grandchildren and their kids. One of the things we are working on and have been working on for a number of years through patents and registrations is actually a biopesticide, which will be essentially a blend of bacteria used to replace fungicide applications. And the studies we've done on this product so far have been very, very exciting. And the market for something like this is absolutely huge.
We're hearing that your company, Advanced Ag, is expanding. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening?
The reason for the expansion for us is to ramp up full production here in Canada. Right now, we work with a laboratory in Cleveland, Ohio to get our products, and we want to bring that up here.
Are you an entrepreneur in need of some help seeing your business grow? Well, keeping with our business-focused theme, we speak with an expert who helps small businesses bring their ideas to market. That's coming up after the break.
These are global tech accelerators, so the best of the best in coaching and helping more businesses scale up.
Welcome back. With the last 20 pandemic months behind us, now more than ever, our economy needs small businesses and innovators to bring their ideas to market. Our next guest is from an organization that supports entrepreneurs in need of some help seeing their business grow and tech companies needing to get off the ground. Tracy Stroud is the Regional Innovation Coordinator at Apex Southeast Alberta, and she joined me earlier this week from Medicine Hat. How important is innovation and development to the Alberta economy? What kind of impact does that have?
Absolutely. It's so important right now in terms of diversification and providing new types of jobs. So right now, from a global perspective, IT jobs are the number one hot job in the world. So with the pandemic, it's really increased the need for online businesses and providing a new way to reach new markets. So in terms of Alberta being able to diversify the economy into the tech and knowledge-based sector, it's very important. And we are seeing growth in this area. Recently, Alberta Innovates launched 4 new tech accelerators. And these are global tech accelerators. So the best of the best in coaching and helping more businesses scale up. And so we're getting more tech entrepreneurs, we're getting more companies to scale up and grow their business, which ultimately creates more jobs, which is really what we want to see in Alberta.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, your organization, Apex, does it look to promote Southeast Alberta as a destination for tech companies, or is your mission more to help develop ideas and technology already in the region, or both?
A little bit of both, actually. So primarily it is to help the entrepreneur get started and scale. But in some cases, we have existing companies that might need help with their attracting the right type of workforce. So right now we have some companies that are needing additional support in STEM. Science, technology, engineering, and math. And so those positions are quite sought after in our region. And so we are creating awareness that those positions exist.
The months of COVID, of course, restrictions, that took such a huge toll on so many small businesses and perhaps on the innovation and tech side of things as well. So are you seeing resilience among that business community? Like, what are some of the examples that you could give us?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially early on in the pandemic, we seen a lot of companies pivot to get their businesses online. And so we primarily work with more of those tech software companies. But during the early days of the pandemic, we were helping all companies to have an online presence so they could reach their customers in online markets. And so we've provided a lot of digital training supports, and we continue to do that. And so some of the training we're offering right now, our partner Community Futures has these digital squads in partnership with BusinessLink, and it's teaching companies not only to get online and get a website online, but how you can use Google AdWords and all of these other digital marketing supports that are needed. And so, yeah, we provide quite a wide array of training and supports, but the companies have been absolutely amazing to pivot and constantly adapt to the new world and the new regulations that we're seeing with COVID. So it's been great to see companies that have, done well during this time, this very difficult time. And some are even, thriving and doing better than before. So kudos again to our amazing business community.
That's amazing. And of course, the last 20 months have been such a huge challenge for all of us. And maybe talk a little bit about how our economy needs those small businesses and innovators to bring their ideas to market.
Absolutely. It's so important to have companies that are developing new intellectual property, that are developing new products and services that the world hasn't seen before. And there are companies doing it. And now it's a process of getting that to market. And so that's some of the supports that we provide, is to help on those stages. And I would just say, companies don't need to do it alone. There are supports available, and it can be a tough journey on their own. And so why not engage with organizations that want to provide assistance and help make that journey a little bit easier.
Next, we feature some of the top local stories from around southern Alberta. Stay with us.
I had actually lost my grandpa during his first 2 weeks of quarantine in a extended care facility last summer, I guess it would have been. So that is really what drove this.
A woman from Grand Prairie is looking to spread some Christmas cheer to seniors this holiday season. BCN's Naveen Day spoke with the organizer, who now has churches, daycares, and schools across Alberta involved in her unique initiative.
The 2021 Christmas Card Drive aims to have at least one card delivered to every senior citizen in a long-term care facility across the province by the time Christmas rolls around next month. Organizer Nikki Demers says she started the campaign last year when she saw how the pandemic was causing seniors to be isolated.
I had actually lost my grandpa during his first 2 weeks of quarantine in a extended care facility last summer, I guess it would have been. So that is really what drove this and what inspired this. So I started writing cards just with my little guy. He was 2 at the time. And I posted it to social media, and it blew up almost overnight.
Last year, over 1,400 cards were delivered to care homes in Grand Prairie. This year, she and a friend in Lethbridge have taken the campaign province-wide and have so far collected over 6,000 cards. Mallory Christiansen says it was the Lethbridge community that stepped up and helped exceed their expectations.
Not only do we have various elementary school, middle schools, even high schools stepping up to create this art, we also have engagements from sports teams. This is an awesome opportunity to develop any type of peer social relationship building while also honoring our seniors in our community, but also throughout our province. Like, I was thinking maybe we would get about 500, and it has just blown up to even more than that. And I know for myself personally, my son, who's 6 years old, and I, just this weekend, we created over 125 handmade cards of love for our seniors.
You can make your own cards or purchase a bundle and personalize them yourself. More information can be found on Demir's Facebook page. Deadline to submit your cards is December 5th. For Bridge City News, I'm Naveen Day.
Thank you, Naveen. Another Christmas van project has been put on by a local auto repair shop in Lethbridge. The initiative is meant to help our families in our city who are in need during the holiday season. As Micah Quinn explains, staff from the shop are excited once again to bring some added smiles to families who need it.
The Christmas Van Project was started 7 years ago by Big Al's Auto Repair right here in Lethbridge. The initiative began after the owner and operator of the shop, Sean Hammond, had a friend of his parents encounter a family whose vehicle had broken down on the side of the highway. The shop was able to help the family, who had just moved to the area and were fleeing persecution.
They came here in search of a better life, but they came here with nothing. Like basically the clothes on their back and garbage bags full of clothes for them and their 3 kids. They bought a car at an auction, but the car was not in very good shape. So we got it here, we fixed it up as best as we could, but we knew it wasn't gonna last long.
A staff member of Hammond's had the idea to gift a van to the family and give it to them as a Christmas gift.
We normally fill the vans with as much groceries as we can, gifts for the kids and for the family, gift cards for groceries or for gas, because that really helps get them through that first year. We also try and put enough cash together in Visa gift cards so that we can pay for their first year's insurance and registrations. Life isn't always easy. We've been there before, we've needed help, and there have been people there to help us, but not everybody has that. So we really want to be as part of the community that is giving back as much as the community is given to us.
This year's van will be given away sometime in the middle of December, and donations will be accepted until December 15th.
Thank you, Micah. Such a feel-good story there. The winter season is fast approaching, and with that comes the harsh snow and colder temperatures. Alvin Mills is the founder of the grassroots group called Kindness to Others. He's been working on the front lines, helping out our homeless for the past decade. Mills is a recovered addict and says he knows the importance that winter clothes can have for our city's most vulnerable. He's looking for donations of heavy jackets and other winter clothing items that he can distribute to the homeless.
It could be like gloves, toques. I was able to get some socks and mitts, so anything helps as long as they're in good shape, and I'll make sure that they get used in the ones that need them. I've struggled at one time where the ones that I'm helping now, I was in their shoes at one time. So now it's just my way of helping, and of course I've been affected by the opioids through family and friends I've lost.
If you'd like to contact Alvin Mills to donate, you can give him a call at the number on your screen there. That's 403-331-3768. How is the Southern Alberta economy doing on the heels of the 4th wave of COVID? Well, after the break, we chat with Economic Development in Lethbridge, so keep it right here.